So, over the lifetime of the NXT brand, man, we have seen great champions like Finn Balor, Samoa Joe, Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, Aleister Black. We have seen some great champions. But in this video, we're going to be discussing and talking about who is the greatest NXT champion to ever hold the NXT belt. We definitely, again, have seen a lot of guys like Finn and Samoa, but who was the greatest? Who was the dude that made the NXT brand what it is today? With all that, man, let's jump into the video, man. So, what the first guy we have to talk about is Finn Balor. Finn Balor won the NXT Championship on July 14, 2015. And Finn Balor is 100% on the Mount Rushmore for the NXT brand history. When you look at the impact that Finn Balor has had, it's undeniable. You know what I'm saying? Especially with his NXT run this past, almost 2 years ago when he won it in 2020. Like, Finn Balor has definitely been one of the greatest things to come out of NXT. I know he hasn't had the best run on the main roster. I know he's doing a lot with the Judgment Day, but Finn Balor was a star in NXT, especially with the demon gimmick. It was just definitely an amazing time to be an NXT and a Finn Balor fan at the time. So let's look at Finn Balor's first run in NXT in 2015. So Finn Balor will actually get a title shot against Kevin Owens on July 4th at the Beast of the East in Tokyo, Japan, where Finn Balor would defeat Kevin Owens for the NXT Championship, and that is where Finn Balor 2015 NXT run would start. He will go on to actually defend the title against Apollo Crews in a solid match, but the match will actually be interrupted by Baron Corbin, of all people. That would set up a feud between those two. But at NXT TakeOver at London, Balor would defeat Samoa Joe to retain the title. And then at NXT TakeOver on April 1st, he would actually retain his title after going up against Samoa Joe. And at the time, Finn Balor would actually be the longest reigning NXT champion at that time, before later on Adam Cole would end up beating his record. But we're going to get into Adam Cole a little bit later. But Finn Balor NXT run would end after losing to Samoa Joe at a live event, ending his 292 reign. But Finn Balor will actually get a rematch at TakeOver The End on June 8th, but Finn Balor will lose again to Samoa Joe in an NXT Steel Cage match. Fun fact, that was actually the first time Finn Balor ever lost as Demon Finn Balor. But Finn Balor will actually wrestle his last match, teaming up with Shinsuke Nakamura, defeating Bobby Roode and Samoa Joe. Then after, Finn Balor will be called up to the main roster, and he will actually go on to become the first Universal Champion in WWE history. But now let's talk about Finn Balor's second run on the NXT brand. Now, during this time, Finn Balor was a bit stale on the main roster. He really didn't have a lot going on, so he went back to NXT, and he would actually return confronting, at the time, the current NXT champion, Adam Cole. But this is where we would see Finn Balor turn heel. He would aid at the time, the Undisputed Era by injuring Johnny Gargano and attacking Tommaso Ciampa. But after, Finn Balor would actually challenge Adam Cole, but he would lose after getting distracted from Johnny Gargano. But on September 8th at NXT Super Tuesday, Finn Balor would actually beat Adam Cole to win the vacated NXT Championship, and that will be his second time winning the NXT title. Then at NXT TakeOver 31, Balor successfully defend the title against Kyle O'Reilly. Over Finn Balor's run, he will actually defend the title against guys like Pete Dunne, Damian Priest, and he will actually end up losing to Karrion Kross on that episode of NXT, ending his 212-day title reign. Now, when you look back at both of Finn Balor NXT title reign, in my opinion, I think Finn Balor's second title reign is one of the best in NXT history. I enjoyed every single moment of Finn Balor's heel run. Like, it was something new to me. It kind of revitalized the NXT Black and Gold brand, because if you guys remember, at the time, AEW was smoking NXT. Like, it wasn't even close. They were just straight smoking NXT in the ratings, to the point where NXT had to move to Tuesdays again because they couldn't compete with Dynamite. And Finn Balor definitely revitalized that Black and Gold brand. And with this one, I think he submitted himself as the Mount Rushmore, or even the GOAT of the NXT Black and Gold brand. But if you guys remember, I said we're going to get into Adam Cole a little bit later, and let's talk about him. Adam Cole, as we all remember, he was special in NXT. Like, if Adam Cole was on your screen, you're glued to the screen 24/7. Like, I can't recall a bad Adam Cole match in NXT. All of his matches has always been bangers. Some of the feuds that he has always been banger. If you guys remember, Adam Cole is currently the longest reigning NXT champion of all time. Like, his run in NXT, like, he has a case of calling himself the GOAT of the NXT brand. If you've seen what he's done for that brand, the Undisputed Era, the feuds, the rivalries that this guy has had, like what he did with the North American title, Adam Cole was the face of the NXT brand for a very, very long time. And let's talk about Adam Cole. Let's look back on his North American Championship run, his Undisputed Era run. Let's just talk about because those were just highlights and unforgettable moments in the NXT Black and Gold brand. With Adam Cole, first NXT North American Championship run, he will hold it for almost a little over 130 days. His title run to me was one of the better NXT North American Championship runs. He really put some prestige on that title. He was defending it consistently, and just an overall just great run. But his run would come to an end after losing his NXT North American Championship to Ricochet in a banger match. Like, I would recommend that match to anyone. Like, Adam Cole and Ricochet match was just beautiful. Like, that was just pure wrestling. But now let's talk about his NXT World Championship run. He will become the #1 contender for the NXT World Championship in a Fatal 5-Way, which he won, and he will actually go on to face Johnny Gargano for the vacated NXT Championship at NXT TakeOver New York, where Cole was defeated by Gargano out of a 2 of 3 falls match. However, in NXT TakeOver 25, Cole would actually defeat Gargano in a rematch to win his first NXT Championship of his career in NXT. And bro, Johnny Gargano and Adam Cole, their matches don't ever miss. Their matches are banger after banger after banger. Like, I can watch an Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano match all freaking day. And this run from Adam Cole to me was just so amazing, because he was defending it on Survivor Series. He even defended it against Daniel Bryan. Like, this dude was having some absolute bangers during his first NXT run. Hey, we can't forget, he even defended it against Seth Rollins on Raw, and they put on an absolute banger. And during Adam Cole's NXT run, as you guys know, he was part of Undisputed Era. Undisputed Era, now looking back, they might have an argument of being top 5 faction. I wouldn't put them up there, but they might have a legitimate argument. I would put the Undisputed Era maybe top 10 factions of all time in WWE history, but we won't talk about that. Let's keep focusing on the Undisputed Era. During Adam Cole's run, Undisputed Era was heavily involved when Adam Cole was defending his championships. They had great feuds like the Undisputed Era versus Team Ciampa at NXT TakeOver War Games. So Undisputed Era was really running NXT, because you had Roderick Strong, who was the North American champion at the time. You had Kylie, and you had Bobby Fish, the tag team champions, and then you had Adam Cole, the NXT World Champion. So the Undisputed Era was definitely the face of the NXT Black and Gold brand at the time. But Adam Cole's title reign would come to an end after losing to Keith Lee at the Great American Bash, where he was actually going up against Keith Lee for the North American title in the winner takes all match, but unfortunately he lost that, ending his world record breaking title reign at 403 days. Now when you look back at Adam Cole's title reign, because in this video we're only just looking at their title reign as NXT champion, and when you look back, Adam Cole, you can make an argument he's the greatest NXT champion of all time. Now, championship run we have ever seen in the NXT Black and Gold brand, but there's still a lot of other contenders, like one of the guys that Adam Cole was feuding with earlier, Johnny Gargano. Johnny Gargano, in some people's eyes, is maybe the greatest NXT talent to ever perform in that brand of all time. The things that this guy has done in NXT is undeniable. He's the first Triple Crown champion of all time, the first 3-time NXT North American champion of all time. This dude has put on some memorable matches that even I can remember and just be like, wow, like Johnny Gargano put on a 5-star banger that match. Like Johnny Gargano was one of the staples of the NXT Black and Gold brand. Johnny Gargano will win his first NXT title with what will become his long-term rival Tommaso Ciampa, becoming the DOI Tag Team Champions in NXT. Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa will have one of the best, or if not the best, rivalry of NXT of all time. Like their rivalry goes so deep, back to when they wrestled in the Indies, and the way Triple H was able to make that rivalry feel so special and feel so intense is just wild. But let's look at Johnny Gargano's first solo NXT title win. It came when he defeated Ricochet to become the new North American champion for the first time. But his title reign wouldn't last that long because he would lose his NXT North American title against Velveteen Dream. And then Johnny Gargano will go on to face Adam Cole, where the NXT title was actually vacated by Tommaso Ciampa, and Johnny Gargano will go on to beat Adam Cole in the 2 out of 3 falls match to become the NXT champion for the first time ever, and that will be the moment where he will actually be the first Triple Crown champion in NXT history. But his title reign wouldn't last that long because after 2 months later, he will end up losing his NXT title against Adam Cole at TakeOver 25. And when you look back at Johnny Gargano's NXT title run, his title run wasn't, in my opinion, the greatest. I feel like his title run could have been better, but no doubt his title run was definitely a bit fun, especially when you had the rivalry with Adam Cole and Tommaso Ciampa. And Johnny Gargano, to me, is just one of those dudes where, like, we all know he's good. Even if his title reign might not be the greatest, we all know he can put on great matches. We all know he can cut a promo. And he is, to me, the complete star. I know, you know, saying a lot of people might have not thought he would be called up to the main roster because of his height, but on the main roster, he's been doing okay so far. I feel like he could be booked better. You know, saying Triple H, we all know he's on Burger Watch right now. But Johnny Gargano is a star. To me, I will put him in the top 3 of greatest NXT talent in the Black and Gold brand of all time. Johnny Gargano is that goddamn good. But now let's talk about Johnny Gargano's long-term rival, Tommaso Ciampa. Now, in my opinion, Tommaso Ciampa is the greatest NXT guy of all time. Like, period. Like, he is, to me, the greatest guy to ever come out of the NXT Black and Gold brand, because Tommaso Ciampa is that goddamn good. I know that's a hot take to say, like, oh, you think Tommaso Ciampa is the greatest NXT star? Yes, I truly do believe that. I don't think anyone even come close to Tommaso Ciampa. I know a lot of guys might say, oh, Adam Cole and Finn and maybe Shinsuke Nakamura or Sami and all that, but I think Tommaso Ciampa was the greatest to ever do it in the NXT Black and Gold brand. Like, he was just different. Whenever I see him on my screen, I make sure I watch anything Tommaso Ciampa was doing. Because that's how good Tommaso Ciampa, to me, was. And his NXT run, even this past one before he got called up to the main roster, was one of my favorite NXT runs of all time. Like, Tommaso Ciampa is a different breed. But let's look at his NXT run, his NXT Championship run. When Tommaso Ciampa first came to the WWE, he came along with the Johnny Gargano. As you guys know, those two were a tag team partner called the DIY. And they had a solid run together. Obviously, we all know they will become a solid tag team together. But we all know that wouldn't last because Tommaso Ciampa would turn on Johnny Gargano. At that moment, the rest is history. We've seen the things that Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano has gone through as a tag team guy, as a rivalry between those two. Like, the intensity between those two was just on a different level in NXT. But let's talk about Tommaso's championship run, his first championship run. So, on January 27, 2016, Tommaso Ciampa will return to NXT TakeOver in Philadelphia, attacking Johnny Gargano to again in 2018, a feud which Tommaso Ciampa would win. But on that episode of NXT, Ciampa will actually defeat Aleister Black to capture the NXT Championship after Johnny Gargano interfered and accidentally hit Black with the title. And then we would see another Tommaso and Johnny Gargano match, the last man standing match, where Ciampa will actually retain his NXT Championship. And then at NXT TakeOver, Ciampa will also retain his championship against Velveteen Dream, and he will also defend his title against Black at NXT TakeOver Phoenix, where he will actually defeat Aleister Black. But Tommaso's great NXT Championship run will come to an end because he had to go under surgery for neck surgery, force him to vacate the NXT Championship, and he will be out of action for about 6 months. Ciampa, when he relinquished his title, was ending his 237-day title reign. But after Ciampa returned, he will confront Adam Cole, who was the current longest NXT champion of all time. After Ciampa saved Matt Riddle and Keith Lee from a beatdown from the hands of the Undisputed Era, that will actually set up Team Ciampa versus Team Undisputed Era at NXT War Games. Then on that episode of NXT, now at this time of the NXT brand, NXT was changed to like the new colorful colors that had a whole new stage. Like the black and gold brand just did not exist anymore. That was retired, and we had this new looked overlay. And at the time, the NXT Championship was relinquished by Samoa Joe after an injury, after Samoa Joe actually beat Karrion Kross for the title. Ciampa will actually go on to defeat LA Knight, Pete Dunne, and Von Wagner in a fatal 4-way for the vacated NXT Championship. And Ciampa run during that time to me was elite. The feud that he had with Braun Breaker was elite. Like, he was really pitting over Braun Breaker heavily during that time, because again, during that time NXT, it wasn't the same anymore. A lot of people were losing interest, and NXT was trying to make new stars like Braun Breaker. He was putting him over heavily. Tommaso Championship run at the time was one of my favorite championship runs of all of NXT. Like, Tommaso Ciampa was just putting on absolute. But Tommaso Ciampa will actually lose his NXT title to Braun Breaker at New Year's Evil, ending his 112-day title reign. And that is Tommaso Ciampa NXT run and NXT Championship run. Bro, look, I'm going to stand by this 100%. Tommaso Ciampa is the greatest NXT superstar of all time. I don't care who you put him up against. That dude is that goddamn good. And that NXT Championship run, one of the greatest I've ever seen in my lifetime, bro. Tommaso Ciampa is just different. Y'all just don't understand. Like, y'all need to go watch Tommaso Ciampa back when he was at NXT, bro. Like, the matches this dude was putting on, I'm gonna put on a couple matches on for y'all right now, for y'all to go watch. Tommaso Ciampa is a different kind of breed, bro. Now, let's talk about one of the other guys in NXT. And right now, he's on a career run right now with the Bloodline. The guy himself, Sami Uso. Not Sami Zayn this time, Sami Uso. Now, at the time during his NXT run, he was referred to as Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn, to me, kind of put NXT on the map a little bit. Like, I started watching NXT because I see what Sami Zayn was doing, and I see Kevin Owens a little bit. Also, I started to really get into the Black and Gold brand a lot. Sami Zayn, bro, that dude was over as heck during the NXT brand. He was one of the, if not the biggest babyface on that entire brand. At NXT TakeOver Revolution on December 11th, Sami Zayn would defeat Neville to win the NXT Championship. And bro, that was an amazing moment. That was one of the best moments in NXT history. Like, we all know Sami Zayn was already over. Like, he had the palm of NXT in his hands. Like, he was that over. And when he won that NXT title, man, it was just an amazing moment. But we all know that wouldn't last. This is the WWE. Kevin Owens would actually turn on Sami Zayn in one of the most iconic heel turns in NXT history, in my opinion, bro. Like we would never forget that moment when Kevin Owens turned on Sami Zayn. We would never forget it. But his title reign wouldn't actually last that long because Sami Zayn would actually demand a match against Kevin Owens, putting his NXT title on the line, which he will lose, ending his 62-day title reign. Now listen, I know Sami Zayn didn't really have the longest title reign and things like that. When you go back and actually look at Sami Zayn's whole NXT run, it was one of the better NXT runs of all time. He's one of the best NXT call-ups of all time on the main roster. If you look at what he's doing with the Bloodline, if you see what he's done in the past on the main roster, he's one of the best NXT call-ups of all time. I know he's never won that World Championship yet. I think he will. I think he should be the one to dethrone Roman. I think that is a storyline they could go, but I think Sami Zayn has had one of the better main roster runs. And during his NXT run also, it was fun. He was over as hell. He was putting on some absolute bangers in NXT. Sami Zayn legitimately has one of the best arguments to be one of the greatest NXT superstars of all time. Now we have to talk about Kevin Owens. Like, you can't talk about Sami Zayn and not mention Kevin Owens. We all know Kevin Owens at the time when he turned on Sami Zayn, bro. That was just one of the best heel moments of all time at the NXT brand. But let's talk about Kevin Owens' title reign after he captured it, after defeating his quote-unquote best friend. Like, bro, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens' relationship is just bro, you know Kevin Owens is going to turn on you, but yet you still call him your dog, bro? That's tough. But after defeating Sami Zayn for the NXT title, he would go on to actually defend his title against Finn Balor, which he was successful in. But then that's when we would see Samoa Joe come in and stop them. And bro, that's where we would see Samoa Joe actually debut on NXT. Then we would see Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe feud. Then this is where we start to see Kevin Owens' title reign end, because at Beast of the East, the event that held in Tokyo, Kevin Owens will put his title on the line against Demon Finn Balor, which he will actually end up losing, ending his 143-day title reign. Now, Kevin Owens' title reign was solid. I don't know if you guys remember, you probably do, but Kevin Owens was actually in a feud kind of in a way with John Cena when he accepted John Cena's open challenge. He was NXT champion at the time. Like, what Kevin Owens was doing in NXT was amazing. Like, he was definitely putting on for the NXT brand. He definitely made that brand feel so special when NXT was just coming up in the ranks. And one of the last guys we're going to talk about is the current NXT champion, Bron Breakker. Bron Breakker right now is practically the face of NXT 2.0. Like, he has been one of the longest NXT reigning champions right now. Some of the feuds that he has been in has been pretty good. Like, the one with Dolph Ziggler was solid. The one with Tommaso Ciampa was elite, top tier. He even unified the NXT UK and the NXT titles together. He had a great feud with JD McCubbin. Like, he has had a pretty good solid feud, and his title reign actually hasn't even been that bad. I know a lot of people might not like Bron Breakker. They feel like WWE is pushing him down our throats, pause. But Bron Breakker is solid. Like, I think he's definitely going to be an up-and-coming star, especially when he gets to the main roster. I definitely see him as a main event level talent. His NXT run could be argued as one of the greatest of all time. Like, this dude's run has been elite. Like, he has put on some absolute bangers after bangers after bangers. We can't even sit here and cap to ourselves. But we have other guys like Shinsuke Nakamura, Bobby Roode, Seth Rollins, Samoa Joe, Aleister Black, Andrade, Drew McIntyre. We have seen some great NXT champions, even Neville. So Big E, we can't forget about him. So we have seen some great NXT champions of all time. But I want to hear from you guys. Who do you guys think is the greatest NXT champion of all time? And you can even leave in the comment section who you think is the greatest NXT talent of all time. I think Tommaso Ciampa clears anyone in my opinion. I think Tommaso Ciampa is the greatest NXT champion of all time. I think he's the greatest NXT superstar of all time. I think he's just different. I think he clears everyone, and I can debate that for the rest of my life. Like, Tommaso Ciampa is that goddamn great. But I want to hear from you guys in the comment section below. Comment who you think is the greatest NXT champion and who you think is the greatest NXT superstar of all time. But that's all I have for you guys today. If you enjoyed the video, man, make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, man. Don't forget to turn those post notifications on, man. I'm out. Peace.